Picture this. You're living almost 4,700 years ago. There are no computers, no universities, no modern hospitals, and definitely no steel skyscrapers. But right in the middle of ancient Egypt, this one guy rises up to become an architect, an administrator, a healer, a scholar, and a sage. I mean, centuries after his death, people literally worshipped him as a god of wisdom and medicine. His name? Imhotep. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack exactly how a man who lived thousands of years ago with zero modern technology created a timeless blueprint for extraordinary capability that we can still use today. So it brings up a really fascinating question, right? What actually made Imhotep so extraordinary? Was he just a brilliant architect? Was he simply an ancient physician or a philosopher? Or was there something much deeper going on? Let's really dive into this because, honestly, Imhotep's greatest achievement probably wasn't just a physical building. His true genius was this incredibly deep, integrated way of thinking. He figured out how to combine observation, knowledge, discipline, and creativity into one unified mind. Now, before we get completely lost in the myth, we need to ground this in historical reality. You know how history loves to build legends around extraordinary people? Well, Imhotep was 100% real. As the Metropolitan Museum of Art actually notes, he was an advisor to King Djoser and is credited with designing the Step Pyramid, which is considered Egypt's earliest pyramid. Just think about the sheer scale of that transformation for a second. Before those famous smooth-sided pyramids even existed, Imhotep led this revolutionary experiment. He took a completely invisible idea from his mind and turned it into the very first monumental stone pyramid. But here's the thing, we aren't just talking about him today because he knew how to stack stones. Which brings us to section 1, the power of integration, breaking out of the box. Okay, so modern society absolutely loves to force us into these incredibly narrow little boxes. You know the drill. You're a doctor or an engineer or an artist, and you're pretty much expected to just stay in your lane. Well, Imhotep did the exact opposite. See, a genius isn't necessarily someone who knows everything about everything. A genius is often just someone who can connect the things that everyone else keeps totally separate. The takeaway here, don't ask what single subject you should learn. Instead, ask what subjects you can connect. To put that into perspective, just look at the smartphone sitting in your pocket. That wasn't created by someone who only understood computers, not at all. It required this massive collision of electronics, software, design, human psychology, and business. Same with the airplane. It wasn't just an engine. It was a blend of physics, materials, and math. Just like Imhotep's incredibly diverse skill set, the absolute greatest breakthroughs in human history always happen right at the intersection of different disciplines. Moving on to section 2, observe before you interpret, the science of ancient medicine. So ancient Egyptian medicine was this wild mix of practical treatment and magic. But texts connected to Imhotep's era highlight something absolutely incredible for that time, a strict, relentless focus on just observing the patient before reacting. And let's be honest, we modern humans are terrible at this. We constantly confuse simple observation, which is just what actually happened, with interpretation, which is what our ego tells us it means. Like, say you fail at a new task once. That is a neutral event. It's just data. But your brain instantly spins up a story and says, oh, I'm a total failure, permanently linking it to a negative identity. Observation is, they haven't replied to my text. Interpretation is, they don't respect me. See the difference? A truly disciplined mind completely separates what happened from what do I think it means. They're absolutely not the same thing. And creating that tiny little gap between observation and interpretation, it can literally change the trajectory of your life. It'll save you from endless emotional turmoil, for sure. All right, section 3. The Imhotep Method, a 5-step framework for modern capability. Now, we don't just want to sit here and admire some ancient historical figure. We want to actually take his mindset and use it to translate our own invisible ideas into visible action. Whether you're trying to start a business, get physically fit, or completely change your personality, every single great achievement passes through this exact sequence. Observe, understand, build, test, and refine. Let's break these down real quick. Steps 1 and 2 are all about observing and understanding. Before you react to anything, just look. Write down exactly what happened, not what you're terrified might have happened. Recording the pure facts creates this crucial emotional distance. Then you seek to understand by replacing judgment with curiosity. So instead of whining, "Ugh, why is my life terrible?" you ask, okay, what specific pattern keeps producing this result? Asking why uncovers root causes and missing variables, because better questions always produce better solutions. Step 3 is where you finally activate that inner architect. Build the first stone. We make this really strange mistake in the modern world. We fall completely in love with the final picture, but we refuse to carry the very first boring stone. We want the six-pack, right? But we don't want to do that first terrible workout. We want the successful business, but we don't want the awkwardness of finding that first customer. So don't wait for some perfect, flawless 10-year plan. If you're feeling overwhelmed right now, don't try to reorganize your entire existence tonight. Just fix one thing. Build a prototype. Build the first stone. And that naturally brings us to step 4, testing. Now, this is where most people drop the ball. Reality does not care about your perfect plan. Reality gives feedback. When things go sideways, your ego screams, "I failed." But the scientific mind, it just says, interesting, that approach didn't work. A rejected idea or a failed experiment is not an identity crisis, guys. It is simply information from reality. Which leads perfectly into step 5, refine. Modify it, try again, improve, repeat. Pyramids are not built with one single perfect decision. No way. They are built through thousands upon thousands of tiny course-correcting adjustments. Excellence isn't about being perfect right out of the gate. Excellence is intelligent refinement. Section 4, your personal pyramid, building stone by stone. I actually want to challenge you today. Grab a piece of paper, pick one specific problem in your life right now. Maybe it's money, your health, a relationship, and run it through this 5-level pyramid. Because think about it, if Imhotep woke up today, he would be totally baffled. We have smartphones, AI, instant access to literally all of human knowledge, and yet billions of people are just paralyzed by confusion and stress. He'd wonder why, with all these tools, we can't seem to build anything. The truth is, we suffer from a lack of integration, not a lack of information. Information just tells you something. Understanding tells you why. Wisdom tells you what to do. But actual transformation, that only happens when you actually start building. Ultimately, all of this builds toward one thing: legacy. The Metropolitan Museum noted that Imhotep became one of the incredibly rare, non-royal historical figures to be divinized. But remember, he wasn't born a god. He was divinized because he built something immensely useful that outlived him. And legacy isn't necessarily about getting famous. Legacy is simply an impact that continues after your attention moves elsewhere. It's the book you write, the company you start, the child you raise, or just the person whose life is better simply because you existed. You cannot build a pyramid on empty ground, and you certainly can't build extraordinary capability in one dramatic, cinematic moment. It is built quietly. One habit, one decision, one honest realization at a time. Keep climbing, because the greatest monument you will ever build is not made of stone. It is the person you become. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative question to chew on today. What is your next stone?